This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. So here the first thing is what is performance testing. So here we'll discuss about the performance testing, and then we'll discuss about the Jmeter, and then we'll discuss about the how do we configure the test plan in Jmeter, recording the test, configuring the dynamic test, and some of the stuff. So here the first thing is you should have a Java installed because Jmeter is a Java based applications. Okay, so you need to have a Java installed, which we understand that. So performance testing should start early and continue through the whole development process. So yes, that should be done at the start of the your project itself. Now it's very crucial thing because if the application is working but not performing, that is a trouble for all of us. So they should be dealt with it. So this code which you see is just to run the simple application, any one application which you can run and get it done. I'll use some other application for the demo purpose, and that is what. So what is a performance testing? So performance testing basically test how an application or resources perform under the given load to see its impact. So see, when you make it your website live, okay, so whether the end users are experiencing the right uh, load time, response time or not, how do you know that? Because you have not made your application live, but before that only you want to test. Let's say given a scenarios, you have a 10,000 end users at your website, how it will behave. Let's say you have some certain infrastructure and then certain CPU, RAM, storage, load balancers, this, that, all this stuff like that. And then end users experience, how do you test it before making the live? And this is something which we have to do as part of performance testing. Test how an application or resources perform under a given load to see its impact. So performance testing is done after the functional testing. By the way, did we do the functional testing, all of you? We have only 4 people, but yeah, did we do the functional testing today?
Yes, I think that's what we use Selenium for.
Yes, yes. So after the Selenium, you should do the performance testing. Functional testing means whether the software is working or not. Performance testing means whether the response for that application is right or wrong. Okay, so that's the. So if you get into the performance testing, you need to be comfortable with some of the keywords. Okay, so what are the keywords which you have? So one of the keywords you have a response time. Okay, another one is a throughput. Third one is a reliability, and fourth one is scalability. Okay, so these are the terms which you need to understand. So response time, if you see, which also include the request time, processing time, response time, and network latency also included into that. That is equal to response time. So request time means the moment you request, let's say www.facebook.com. So you request. So it requests from your browser to the to your network internal router, travel to the some of your internet provider to the DNS server, something like that. So creating a request and then sending a request is called request time. Processing time means you request it to the some endpoint, let's say load balancer or something. Now that request will be processed. That might travel web server, app server, database server, external services, and all this thing, blah, blah, blah. So that's called processing time. And then back with the response time, including the network latency, it's called response time. Okay. So what is the throughput formula? I think most of you must be comfortable with it. Throughput means number of transaction, which is a request and a response. Okay, by unit of time in a millisecond or seconds. So throughput, typically you will get the percentage of, the number of user, the number of percentage of traffic which is per millisecond or something like that. You can get it through this form. Okay, you can have a throughput not only in terms of transaction, request and response, but also how much data it was sent, and so on. How much data it is sent and received. Okay, so that is also there. Okay, now reliability. Reliability means, this is a formula, number of errors and by number of requests. So whatever the error percentage you get it, that's the reliability. Scalability, which includes everything, response time and then throughput and then percentage of errors together will decide the scalability and things like that. Okay, so it can be a vertical scalability also, and it can be horizontal scalability also. So these are the terminologies which we need to get comfortable with. So when you do the performance testing, what are the requirements you should be having? So you should try to get the average and maximum response time should be this, like a kind of benchmark. The system should be able to support this many pages per second. So this kind of requirement you have before you start the performance testing. The system should be capable of supporting at least this many number of users per hour. So these are the benchmark you will have it for your product, for your application, and then with that benchmark, this requirement, you will do the performance testing. Okay, so how to do the performance testing? So these are the called performance testing process, and in the process we have multiple phases. So first thing, we have to design and build the test, then prepare the test environment, and then run all the tests. You get all the results, analyze the results, and see that if it is as per your requirement or not, and optimize it and keep retest till you get the desired requirements fulfilled. Okay, so these are some of the process which we have. So now coming back to the what Jmeter can do here. So let me tell you here, Jmeter is not a browser. Okay, it does not execute JavaScript. Remember, Selenium does execute JavaScript, but Jmeter is not. So it's not a browser. Then you must be thinking, then how can we test that performance of web application or something like that? So basically, it uses the client API. I mean, basically network call. If I simplify it, it is a network call actually. It's not hitting to the application, but hitting to the IP address and port number. Okay, so that is a network call actually. Okay, so think of Jmeter as a tool to perform multiple server requests. So here, these are the types of performance testing which we have, which you want to perform using Jmeter. So here there are two ways to first generate a load, which is number of users you can set, or number of requests by per user also you can set. So using that you can generate a load. So now the question is, what are the types of performance tests? So we have a smoke test for verifications. You have a load test to see that under the certain loads how your application response time is behaving. Stress test, so you have on a certain regular interval you are getting the increasing the number of users, number of thread and stuff like that, you are giving a stress at a certain interval. This is called stress test. Spike test means suddenly there are certain traffic you have it, but suddenly you increase the traffic to the certain level and you see that response, you analyze the response, how when the traffic gets spiked, how it's behaving. Endurance test at a certain traffic, how it is behaving. So these are the things which we have. So yes, things to remember, Performance testing, if you do, keep few keywords in your mind, which includes response time, throughput, reliability, scalability. Also see that what is your requirement for the performance testing. On top of that, performance testing processes, which include design and build test, prepare the test environment, run the test, analyze the results, optimize and retest it. That's all. These are some of the features of the Jmeter. Test different types of server or resources. You can define a variable, process requests and responses, it stored it, record test from the browser. That means you can plug it with some additional tools from the browser also, extensible actually, and you can do that. Okay. Here, generate a load, how to generate a load. So number of users you can increase, number of requests you can increase per user, all these things you can do that. And these are the performance types of performance test types: smoke, load, stress, spike, and endurance. Okay, so this is our introduction of Jmeter. Now next thing is we'll try to understand how this terminology of Jmeter. Okay, so let me show you here. So here, so as I said, Jmeter is not a browser. Okay, so Jmeter work at the protocol level, simulating network requests, which I stated already. So here, how do you simulate the traffic users? So you can say number of thread or number of users, it's up to you. So one thread is equal to one user in Jmeter. So here, how do you do that? So here, create a request through the Jmeter, which I'll teach you. After that, save the response, and Jmeter will save the response and collect the data, and on top of it, analyze it. So now the question is, how do we install the Jmeter? So installation of the Jmeter is very simple. Okay, first thing, you need to have a Java installed, because Jmeter is developed using Java and it's a open source product. It's a free software. You can use it, anyone can use it. You can modify the software as well. Okay, so Jmeter is a Java based application and you have to have a Java environment in place. So the moment we say Java, that means you can use in Windows, you can use in Linux, you can use in Mac also, any places. Okay, so now some of the directory structure which I want to show you. These are the Jmeter directory structure. Okay, so what I have done, I have already downloaded it, so I would like to show you. So go to the tools, and here is the Jmeter. This is the Jmeter. So now from where you download, so you can download the Jmeter from the website. So Jmeter, and this is Apache website here. So download the tarball or zip file binaries. This is the source code. Don't download it until you want to modify the source code and compile it. Okay, so this is the binaries, and this is the binaries you get it. If you extract it, you get all these files. Okay, all the Jmeter libraries files you have here. Okay, and all the starting and stopping commands here you have. For example, look at this file. This will work on the shell scripting. This is work in the Linux. This will work in Windows, like that. Okay, so this is the directory structure what you have. Now, how do we run the Jmeter? So simply, what we'll do after downloading, because I am assuming Java is installed, for me it's installed, I'll just go to the command line, and here there is a jmeter.bat file. We have to locate for the Windows, call it, enter it. Make sure that desired Java for me is 11 is installed, and this will open up Jmeter form. So let's wait for a few seconds. Okay, so just wait for it. I don't know, today my system is little behaving slow for some reason. Should be up by now, but it's not still coming. Just wait for it. Few seconds. Let me close all the other slides. Probably memory issues or something. I'm clicking. It's taking too much time. So meanwhile, you can also read this Jmeter system requirement. This is on. So you see that here, how much RAM, memory and all you needed. So here, CPU, RAM. So it's a little bit consuming little more memory, but time it should be now. So let me close this also. I'm closing all other window also, just to see if it can save some memory. Okay, my Selenium server was running. I just scaled it. Selenium server and great, it's consuming lots of memory. So maybe that could be the reason. So okay, so now, yeah, so now it has come. So it was a memory issues because of Selenium Hub. So this is a Jmeter now. Okay, so nothing you have to do for installation. Just download, extract, and launch this jmeter.bat file, and you're done. This is your Jmeter console. Any questions? Any confusions? Anyone have? All of you? Hello.
Thanks. Okay. Hello, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so now remember that this is a GUI which I started. But if you want to run in a non-GUI mode also, then you have to specify -n. Okay, so that is also possible, non-GUI. Okay, so any command line if you want to understand, jmeter -h, which will help you to get it. Okay, now configuring the plugins. So you know what, Jmeter is based on the plugin concept. So that means if you want additional features which you want to in a Jmeter, then you have to install the plugins. Okay, you have to install the plugins. Now the first thing, unfortunately, you know what, in Jmeter the plugin manager is not coming by default. This one, you see, plugin manager, like plugin manager, which will basically install or uninstall the plugins. Okay, so unfortunately this is not coming by default with the Jmeter. So now then you'll ask me, how do I install the plugins? So what you have to do, plugin manager, first you have to install the plugin manager. So for that, what you have to do, you have to go to the website Jmeter plugins manager, download the plugin manager. Okay, so you see here, this is the jar file. You click, it will be downloaded. So download the jar file, plugin manager, and keep it inside the lib.ext. So where is the lib.ext? Let me show you here, lib and ext. So you see that my plugins manager is somewhere here. Are you able to see my screen? Jmeter plugins manager. Okay, so after that, what you have to do, you have to kill this and you have to restart that same command line, this one, to detect it. The moment you detect it, you will get this plugin manager here. Okay, so now in my system it is installed. So now you can see that plugin manager. Little bit reduce this, so you'll be able to understand entire thing. See here. Okay, so now there are certain plugins I have installed it, but certain plugins which is available. So depends on your requirement, you can install the plugins also. Okay. Again, if you get into the performance monitoring, this as a domain, if you want to become a performance monitoring engineers, then you might need all this stuff. Right now, I'm just making you comfortable. If you really want to install, this is how you have to. So now I have installed some of the plugins which I need for the next demo. For example, custom thread group, the basic graph. These all plugins I installed it. So how you install it? For example, select this one. Okay, let's say I want to install the 5 additional graph, and here apply changes and restart Jmeter. That's all. So you can restart it and you have installed plugin. So I have installed some of the plugin for my demo. I would like to tell you those plugins actually, and those plugins are this one: custom thread groups, 3 basic graph, throughput shaping timer, and dummy sample. So I installed it, these plugins. All of you are okay with this? All of you? Hello?
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So this is how we install the plugins. Now let's move on and creating a test plan. And for that, how do we do that? So here, so I'm going to create and configure the test plan. Okay. So how do we do that? So you need to understand this structure very well. Here you have a one simple test plan, and you can see that there are some variables which is defined. Okay. And then HTTP request which is being called. Some cookies manager also is there. Then some thread group is there. Thread group is, remember, that is for the creating number of users traffic basically. And then some controllers are there. You see recording controller. Then catalog requests are there, book requests are there, some view results trees are there, and summary reports. Now you will be confused actually. What exactly all this thing? Don't worry, it's not that difficult. Okay, so just you need to understand, you need to ask a question: what is a test plan? What is a variable? What is HTTP request? What is HTTP cookie manager? What is a controller? What is a result tree? What is a summary report? All these things I'll answer. Okay, the most important thing is, if you are doing the performance monitoring, you should be very well versed with HTTP technology or the one which you are doing. Okay, so remember that. So tree structure. Now, more or less, when you create a test plan, your structure will be like that. So you have a test plan. Let me show you first. Here, see, this is the, close this guy, and this is the test plan. Here many navigations are available. Don't get so stressed about it. It's very simple. The moment you look at this, you'll understand what exactly this you can do. Okay, save, copy, paste, cut, add, delete, run, delete, all this thing. So not great things to do about it. So in here, this is the test plan. This is what we need to understand the structure about it. So under the test plan, you may have configuration element, thread group, listener, and test fragment. Now, this is not the complete list, by the way. These are the only required list which you have. Okay, so I'll show you this under the test plan. What you have here under the test plan, add what? I can add thread also. I can add config element also. I can add listener also. I can add timer also. I can add a pre-processors also, post processors also, assertions also, and also. Okay, so under the test plan you have it here, but some of the element we are discussing here. Now under the thread group, you may have sampler, but by the way, sampler and controller you may have at the test plan also, but you should be good at the thread group. So you have under the thread group, you have a sampler and timer, controller, and again sampler. You see the sampler can be a part of the thread group, or sampler can be a part of the controller also. Okay, so remember that. Under the sampler, you have assertions, pre-post, processors, and so on. So here, this is something which we have to understand. So what is a test plan then? The test plan is basically a root element of your test, where its overall settings are specified for all of your performance testing parameters. That means test plan is basically root element for your performance testing. Okay, simple. Now here, what is a thread group? Thread group is basically is a way to simulate the number of users. Simple. Let's say you want to create a thread of 1,000 people. That means 1,000 users will hit on the website at a time. Okay. So there were two ways to generate a performance. Create a traffic. One is increase the number of users or increase the number of requests by per user. So these are the things you can do that. So here thread group is equal to the number of thread means number of users means number of requests against the applications. Okay, so right now if you see that I have a test plan, and inside that I will create a thread group. See here, create a thread group. Now if you look at this is the thread group. You can rename it to whatever you want, and there are something number of thread per user. So let's say I'm setting 10. Ramp up over the period of every seconds 1. Well, let's say I say 5 and ramp up period second 1. Means every 1 second keep ramping up the number of users. And do you want to run this number of users and close the thread? No, infinite. It will be running infinite way like that. So this is called thread group. Now next thing is, what is this? Configurations element. So configuration element, you see some of these are here, like a CSV dataset config, or HTTP cookie manager, or login configuration, or HTTP request default, or FTP request default. So what exactly this is? So basically here you can set some of the variables. For example, if you want to create a performance for facebook.com. So facebook.com, what you need? User ID and password. So those are the entry you can declare in the configuration element as a variable, which can be used in the during the runtime. Okay, so here there's so many configuration elements which we have. If you go here, thread group, add, see config element, look at this here. You can pass the config element through the CSV data set, HTTP header manager, HTTP cookie manager, HTTP cache manager, HTTP request default, bold, counter, DNS, FTP, GDBC, LDAP, and so many. Now you will say, Rajesh, I'm not able to understand all this. That's what I said. If you want to be into the performance domain, you need to understand all these things in detail, like what is HTTP header in website, what is HTTP cookie manager, cache. It will help you. Right now, I'm not complicating it, just to because you are not getting into that, but making you comfortable. Okay, so these are the terminologies you need to know about HTTP, network, FTP, JDBC, all these things you need to know. Okay, so here you can pass some variable, simple variable. If you want to pass it, a random variable. So here you can say random variable. What's the variable name? Name. What is the output format? Anything, let it be minimum value, maximum value, all these things. Or age, you can put it up, and this age is a random variable, and you can use this. Okay, so yeah, this is a random variable. You can also set, you can set the password also, like here config element. So here simple config element you can set, and the password and all. Here username, password, all these things you can set. This is the one variable, this is the value, this is one variable, the value. This has come default. You can add more actually. Here add more. Okay, so this is also you can do that. So that's the second element which we have, is config element. Third one is controller and sampler. This is the most important one which you need to study. Okay, so now question is, what is a controller, what is sampler? So controller means, if you see that, it's a controller, simple. Controller means the someone who controls. Okay, controls. For example, if this is this, then do this. Simple. So it's like that. So controller is basically a logic in which the sampler will run. So sampler means, see here, there's a two things, logic controller and sampler. So if you try to understand in this way, logic controller and sampler. So here if I put it up in this way, if this is true, this is called logic controller. This condition is called logic controller. And do this, and this, whatever you are calling sampler. Okay. So do this means sampler. So sampler basically is like, it will hit www.rajeshkumar.xyz. Okay. So this is a something sampler. Are you able to understand this? All of you? All of you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is something, we have a controller, sampler, logic controller and sampler. So logic controller let you customize the logic to decide when to send request. Okay. And sampler is basically different types of request, perform a request and generating one or more results. So it can be HTTP request, it can be JDBC request, it can be FTP request, it can be SMTP request, and so on. So now can we set up a controller? So here I'll go for here and see here controller, logic controller, if controller. Here I set this if controller. My system got hanged. Are you able to hear me? Am I
Yes,
audible?
I can hear you. Yes, sir.
Okay, just hold on. My system got hanged. Let me close this. Now you see this is if controller. Okay, so if controller where you can set that. This is the expression. Expression must evaluate to true or false. So here you say, for example, if this particular variable is defined, then yes. If not defined, false, like this. So you will have this one if controller, and after that you will have a sampler. So you'll go here, add sampler, HTTP request. This is the basically request to, for example, I want to request to rajesh.kumar.xyz, right? So this is the application, and here you have a HTTP protocol or HTTPS. HTTPS. So I'll just modify this and then put this here, port number 80, index.html. That's a path. Okay, and this is something which you have HTTP request. Okay, so now this is called sampler. Now timer, you will introduce the timer. So timer, what will it will do? Introduce a delay pause between the request. So if you see here what you said, thread group 5 users every seconds, every 5 users I want every seconds. So if you want to introduce the delay between the 5 user between the 5 user, so then you set the timer, add timer, constant timer. Many ways to set that timer. One constant timer means set this, let's say delay 300 milliseconds or 500 milliseconds now. So now this controller, this timer, you can set the timer at the thread level also. So how do you drag it? Just move this up. It's not going actually. Let me, okay, it's got stuck one more time. Just hold on for a second. Why is now you can move this to the thread level. Oh, it's hanging. Let me remove it At the thread level also you can add timer here, constant time, add it. Okay, so this is the timer element which you can use this. So now assertion. What is assertion? Basically assertion, you tried in the Selenium also. There were 3 types of assertion. Remember that: assert, verify, and wait for. So here also we have assertions. So assertion, whatever the response you got it after the sampler running, okay. So based on the response, assertion will validate the response whether it's a right response or not. So that's called assertion. Okay. So here assertions we have. Let's say you want to create here, and you want to create assertions. So here, see assertion. Multiple assertions are there. Response assertions or HTML assertions or something like that you can do, and a lot of assert you can do that. Text response, response code, response message, response header, all this thing you can add it and keep adding it. Here you can add it pattern also and do that. So response assertions also is there. Now listener. What is a listener? So see, you whatever the response you got it, okay, that Jmeter is storing at some place. Okay, whatever the response you hit, the let's say a lot of request you hit against any website, and whatever the response you get it, Jmeter stored at one place, and using listener you can see it. So here using listener you can see the graph of that response, table format, tree format, log format, all this you can see that. So if you see here under this, you can add a listener here, listener, and multiple listeners are there, like view results. See here, you can add more listener also. Here, summary report, and also. So this will be auto generated, and you will have. So guys, are you able to understand all of this? Hello?
Yes, following you, sir.
Yeah. So now the question is, now let me show you the quick demo for it. Okay. So I'll not complicate too much. Let's create a thing. So I'll delete all this thing. Remove. 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 Okay. So simple demo I'm showing you. Done. So here, this is my thread group. How many users you want? 10 people. Now directly I'll hit to the, not complicating other stuff, directly hit to the sampler. Sampler is HTTP. What is your HTTPS? I'll just copy paste to avoid the mistake. HTTPS. This is my domain. URL, port number 80, default, let it be, and path is index.php, HTML. Let me tell you, this website, if you go, there is one file which is called index.html, which is not visible, but it is having, correct? So this is done. Now what I want, this is sampler. I'm not adding any controller or something. This is sampler. Now I'll directly add a listener. Listener, which is multiple reports, which will you can see that the output of it. Summary report, add aggregate report. These are the graphs I want. And now I will do save this projects. Okay. And run this. So now I'm generating a traffic on my website, and see that output is coming. See here it says HTTP request, and this is the response code. This red means this is a 404 error actually. Okay. So here it says, read that error message here. It says error count, response code, non-HTTP response code. That means when I hit this place, this means this response code is non-HTTP. Okay, and here it says non-HTTP response message unsupported or unrecognized SSL message or something like that. Okay, this is the raw, this is the parsed one in a format. You can read this. So I'll just stop this performance testing. And I think there is some problem in my sampler. So let me see that HTTPS IP address or server name. I think www index.html. I think www is creating trouble. So let me remove it, save it, and let me clear this all. Clear the old log and start from scratch. And now if I see here, now again, so I'm not expecting this failure. Let me see. Rajesh Kumar.xyz, port number, HTTPS. So, okay, let's try some other website for time being. I think certificate is missing. This is the error message. I think certificate problem. Let me see that if I can ignore the certificate. So okay, let me go for one other one, DevOps, let's say consulting.in. Okay, so this is the output. Okay, so this is the output. It's HTTP. So now I'm going for changing this here, 80 port index.html, save it, clear that, and run this. My God. Okay, so I think it's not a problem with the endpoint. There's some problem with SSL. So let me fix this. Let me pause this recording for some time.
This conference will now be recorded.
I'll have to make it HTTP only, because if you use HTTP, certificate also need to be loaded. Save it. Let me clear this and run this. And now it has worked. So last time HTTPS, we have to load the certificate also, which was missing. So now this is the response body. This is the all the sample results, request, and also. Now, if you want to see the summary, how many reports, how many total traffic has been done to something, you see that now it's growing. Average response time is this one. Minimum traffic, maximum traffic. Error percentage you see, throughput you see, and look at the received bytes, sent bytes, and also like that. Are you understanding, all of you? Hello?
Yes, Rajesh.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
Rajesh.
now, yeah. So now you want to keep it assert and all. So also you can introduce assert, add assertion here, response assertions you want to, response assertions. So what is response code? Okay, here contains, see here, response code contains matches equal to, so response code equal to 200, and if it is there, if the response code equal to 200, then this assertions will pass, and if not, it will fail. So anyways, this will pass. So clear the results and run this. And here all the test cases will be passed here. So like that. So you can put the assertions also like this and get it done. Okay, so now I have a step-by-step configuration details here in this URL. Okay, so if you go to this URL, you have with a screenshot everything step by step how to set up the Jmeter. Screenshot also attached to do that. So everything you can follow. I'll send you after this session with the recordings, and then get it going. Any questions you have? Any questions anyone have?
No, Rajesh, no questions.
Okay, so I'll send you all this content through WhatsApp and LMS, and we will meet next session.